When we talk about cartoons from the 1990s, there aren't too many that can compete with Rocko's Modern Life, at least in terms of capturing the decade the way that it did, you know? I mean, look at this guy. This dang wallaby right here in his collared t shirt. That's a 90s shirt right there if I've ever seen one. Random note, wallabies are awesome, but does anybody know about a wallaroo and what that is? It's like a dang wallaby mixed with a kangaroo, a whole kangaroo wallaby combo. They're crazy. I don't know how that works. Don't ask me. Ask Mother Nature or, the damn Animal Planet. Either way, it's got to be the greatest animal combination ever. I mean, no offense to the liger, but definitely nowhere as cool. Okay. So when we talk about Rocko, I mean the patterns, the characters, the colors, the style, working as a sex hotline operator at one point. Oh baby, oh baby. Nothing really captured the 90s quite like this show did. So where am I going with this? No, really, where am I going with this? Ah, yes. Where did this show come from and how did it come to be? I'm super interested in finding out the origins of shows like this and seeing where they might have got their start and in what form, as well, along with how much it really ended up changing from then to now. Now, where should we start for all of this? What's the first hint of the show that would ever come to be? Or, rather, who might have been the first character to be seen? Because I'll tell you what, some of the main characters were created at different times and for different things, even a bit before the show ever came to be. Hold up now, we're gonna have to hold all the horses and stop all the presses. I just found out something. Rocko apparently actually had a last name, and I did not know it was ever revealed. His last name is actually Rama, Rocko Rama, which was really thought of in 1992 during the concept phase. Okay, so here I'm going to share the concept art that stated his last name in 1992. And on this piece, there was also some other ideas that creator Joe Murray had in mind for Rocko at the time as well. So check it all out here. And according to George Maestri, who was a writer for the show and a good friend of Joe, there was also another surname that they had in mind for Rocko. From an interview in 1997, George had this to say, revealing that Stretch Brain was actually another idea that was thrown around for Rocko's last name, as his brain always stretched out of his head, to then not long after drop this name altogether and any other idea to give him one, leaving Rocko as just Rocko, which is cool too. Either way, we're rocking with Rocko. That's just how it's gonna be. Okay, so now back to which character came first and in what iteration. It was actually Rocko. I mean, surprise, huh? And in what form, you may ask? It was a comic. I believe it was even a newspaper comic, but I'm not really 100% sure about this because creator Joe Murray was no stranger to working on newspaper comic strips, and this is how he even got familiar with art seriously in the first place, thinking that newspaper comics may be the key to creating a career within the art field in the first place, which is something he was trying very hard to do. And after sending in his works and being rejected from multiple newspaper companies, he even decided to start his own at one point. Even if he was young and an amateur at the time, might I add this was long before Rocko's Modern Life was even a thing, he was still planning on making art his career somehow, some way. Thus, he would go on to try many different things to start his career in art, like working as a caricature artist at an amusement park. Funny enough, he got the job by copying a caricature that he found in Mad magazine. I'm not sure which one though. He also worked for an advertising company making cartoon ads, as well as creating cartoons for his school newspaper, and later working for a local San Jose paper company as a political cartoon artist. And a bit later just started freelancing, not really being able to find out his true destination in the art space and, going through the struggles of quite literally a starving artist. So that's what leads me to this, which is Rocko in his first and most basic form. In this comic, yes, created by Joe Murray, we can see Travis, aka the Wallaby shown, aka an early Rocko, writing a letter to somebody named Zach, only to then get interrupted by a dog. No, not Spunky, but we'll get to him soon. Like I said, I think that this was for some sort of newspaper strip Joe had in mind. It has that feel to it, but I really cannot confirm this. This was created in 1985, by the way, so comic strips and newspapers were at the cusp of becoming obsolete. I know, still they're around, just definitely not as popular as they once were, and certainly wouldn't be as popular as the animation boom set to happen just soon after this. Anyways, the strip was titled Zack and Travis, and later Travis would become Rocko. See, we love early iterations, don't we? So with this and a real-life wallaby that Joe would draw inspiration from while visiting a zoo, where he watched a wallaby who remained very mild-mannered and quiet, as all the other animals around this wallaby in the zoo, such as elephants and, everything else, were just loud, crazy, and obnoxious. Something Joe kind of resonated with, which can also perfectly describe Rocko and Rocko's Modern Life. Makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, on to the next character who was seen right before the show aired, this being Spunky, Rocko's lovable little mutt, who's actually a miniature bull terrier. Apparently, oh, and completely random, I just wanted to share this in my Rugrats video, but forgot. Spike is actually a Siberian tiger hound, which isn't a real breed. I just like, random cartoon animal knowledge, something weird, something wacky. Anyways, Spunky would actually come during Joe's animation arc. This was after an editor recommended that he try his hand in animation in the first place. I'll leave this here as well, a screenshot of Joe's very first animation film in 1987 that he released while attending college, and it even went on to win many different awards too. Nothing to do with Rocko, I know, though at the same time, it really has everything to do with Rocko. I mean, it just kept building his confidence and, eventually led up to the creation of Rocko in the first place. So, you know what? Bam. Now, it's back to Spunky. Wait a second. Actually, scratch that because we got to talk about Heifer first because he was seen just before Spunky would be. I'm just realizing this as it's really just a prototype Heifer. But still, this was said to be his first iteration. The first bit of inspiration of what would become Heifer, that is. Even if it was just a 1988 MTV promo piece, that was just a few seconds long. We still count it though. Also, just to make a quick side note, Heifer was actually based upon a real life friend that Joe had, who had a love for bologna sandwiches and was even adopted. Using this friend's real life experiences coping with being adopted to inspire how Heifer would end up reacting when he would find out that he was adopted as well. Inspiration comes in strange ways, doesn't it? Even Mr. Bighead was inspired by a mean neighbor that Joe had at one point, who would often steal baseballs from Joe and his friends. Okay, for real, back to Spunky. Where was he first seen? Well, that would be part of a short film that Joe created in 1992, known as My Dog Zero, just a year prior to Rocko's release. A story about a man who adopts a dog, hoping to attract the attention of a woman, but then quickly realizes that he bit off a little bit more than he could chew. Now this dog right here can be seen as the first iteration of Spunky, and this whole short film would sort of inspire the creation of Rocko's modern life. Also, is this some sort of strange Rocko dog right here? Just thought this was kind of funny to point out. So, how would this film come to inspire the Rocko show? Yes, that was the original title during development. Well, Joe wanted to turn his concept for My Dog Zero into something, through the funding of Nickelodeon pre-buying the rights to it, and after a pencil test, Nickelodeon was very interested, leading to Linda Saminsky, who we've talked about before. She was in charge of Nicktoons at the time, reaching out to Joe explaining all about the concept of Nicktoons itself. The only problem? Joe did not like the idea of a cartoon for kids, as at the time he believed that there was no freedom in him to create one how he really wanted to create one. He just didn't like the fact that he would have to write a show appealing to a child audience, which, watching this show now, really makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, I appreciate it much more as an adult, I'll tell you that much. Anyways, Linda would end up convincing Joe by stating that Nicktoons was sort of shaking up the cartoon world, and the rules were pretty much up to whoever was making said shows. Clearly, this was enough for Joe to hear, something that he could actually work with. However, he didn't feel that My Dog Zero was fit for this concept, and in turn decided to create something different. Looking through all of his other works and piecing things together, anything solid that he could submit to Nickelodeon, which is nuts because he did all this in only a few months, from nothing to a Rocko concept real quick. That's just crazy. By the way, for reference, My Dog Zero, the animation wasn't made at the time of pitching it to Nick. He just wanted to get it made through their funding. I guess I didn't make that too clear. That was his whole point to go to Nick in the first place, not for Rocko. Though, of course, it did lead up to Rocko, and after turning in the pilot concept for Rocko, and waiting to hear back, he then decided to fund the creation of My Dog Zero through his own means, which he then released, and Linda would end up seeing it, thus further solidifying the skill that Joe had and loving the concept behind what he sent in for Rocko. It was just a perfect storm. So, My Dog Zero and Rocko kind of went hand in hand, which led to Rocko being greenlit, and the rest is history. Now, if I may, I just want to share a few different quick extras about the Rocko show. For instance, Rocko Rama himself started out as a yellowish color, and in the original pilot, along with some concept sketches, you can see this. He also looked a bit wider, didn't he? Yeah, kinda did. Now, how did he turn from yellow to pale, you might ask? Well, some major toy manufacturer had an interest in Rocko. Guess they had first dibs as well, because the show wasn't even out yet at this point. That money machine, it sure does start quick, doesn't it? Anyways, his yellow color was too similar to a character that they had a toy for already, and that thing was already pumping out numbers. I really don't know which one, but that's all I heard. Thus leading to a change for Rocko. Though this toy was never even created in the long run, the company just kind of changed their mind. That's okay, because this video game right here started development before the show even aired, though it wouldn't come out until 1994, but still, a video game's pretty cool. Okay, so what else do we have? Yes, Rocko had a sister at one point too in concept, named Magdalene. And she even had 2 children of her own. She was thought of before the show even aired, though Joe thought it would be best if Rocko had no family around at all, so she was scrapped. He also had an idea to introduce her in season 2 as a narc, Rocko's narcoleptic sister that is, even making an unaired episode around her introduction. Though Nickelodeon wasn't on board, Joe was actually questioned at one point by a reporter not long after about the lack of a positive female role model, and in his response stating something along the lines of cartoons don't even need role models, they're just cartoons after all. Which damn, that's the truth right there. I think Nickelodeon then wanted his sister to be the role model after this, but Joe said no. That's just Nickelodeon for you, switching up as always. I think that's why we ended up getting Dr. Paula Hutchinson. She was some sort of pun on this when Nick said that they needed a good hook. You get it, huh? Okay, here's another cool one. Rocko's Modern Life actually had some comics in 1994, published by Marvel themselves. Would be cool to get your hands on one of these, wouldn't it? I think there were only like 7 issues made, at least by Marvel. Of course, in 2017, more comics would come to be from Rocko, but by Boom Studios this time. Regardless, cool either way, and I'd love to read them. Okay, all right. What else do we have? And a Reddit Q&A with Joe Murray, the creator himself. He said he had a better time working with Cartoon Network over Nickelodeon, which if you don't know, he made Camp Lazlo as well, so that sort of makes sense. He also said at the time the best new cartoons were Adventure Time and Regular Show. Might I add, this was a Q&A from 2013, so clearly he had some great taste. Anyways, this whole Q&A was pretty interesting actually. Check it out if you want to. I'll just screenshot this and let you look it up. Lots of insight. Really, I don't have much more to say. Rocko's Modern Life is awesome, and that's the only point that should be made, honestly. Rocko's probably out there somewhere working hard, and you know what, I should be too, so bye-bye.